so many people are struggling with addiction and they don't know. Calling themselves functional alcoholics. Tell a functional alcoholic not to drink for 2 days. You will see the difference in even how they operate, in their work life, in their home life, in everything they do. For me as Caroline, I always say me as an addict from the word go. Me, I'm not the kind of a person to sit and have 2 beers, I go home. 2 beers will give me a headache. Genuinely, I will have a headache. I used to sit with my ex and we drink. The guy has blacked out me. I'm looking at this guy and thinking, problem? I cannot leave a club because money has gotten finished. That's a lie from the devil. I will find more money and I will drink until my body gives way. And we are in that space where alcoholism is becoming crazy. I'm told in Nairobi alone there are 12,000 pubs. In Nairobi alone, 12,000. Towards the end of my addiction, I sold everything in my house. I had gotten a buyer for my passport. I didn't know passports could be bought, but I'd gotten a buyer. The reality of what my life had become was too much for me. I mean, I've come from a good family, I've gone to good schools, I've worked even internationally. The people who are in my class are doing so well, they're high flyers. Yet, whenever I go to town and I see them, I would hide myself because I've become a lesser version of myself. I'm wearing even 2 pairs of trousers to look like I have meat on my bones because there's no meat on me, it's gone, it's been finished by the hard liquor. Showering has become a thing of the past. I would go even for months without showering. You know, when you drink every day and it's heavy drinking, your body starts getting tired. I checked into rehab. I couldn't even say my own name. That's where I had reached. It was so bad. It was frightening. It's like my brain had begun shutting down. I am Kagia. I am a born-again Christian. I am a mom of 2. I'm a single parent. I have a 17-year-old son, and my daughter is 7.5. I am also a certified addictions therapist. I'm an author. I recently authored my first book called Still I Rise. I am a speaker. I'm an international speaker. I am also a recovery coach. That means I help people who are struggling with issues in life, more so substance. And I am the founder of Carolinekagiawellness initiative. Initially, when I started it, it was for those who are struggling with alcohol and substances, but now it has gone on to issues to do with mental wellness, emotional wellness, basically life's issues. I've grown up in a Christian family. My parents were Christians and have been Christians for the longest time. They even were elders in one of the mainstream churches for a certain period in their lives until they retired. And so me, I was born and raised as a church girl. I come from a middle class family, so I have gone through really good schools. In primary, high school, I did my high school in a national school. I was in the Limuru Girls School. Alumni class of 98. I may not look that age, but I'm alumni class of 98. And me, I'd never touched alcohol. And then there was those people who, there's these cafes we go through in Form 2 where you get saved and all that now. And I said, I'll never, engage in fornication. I'll never drink. I'll never smoke. I'm that one who, I'll get married at 24, a virgin. Come on now, this is Carol. And all those things were deeply ingrained in my spirit because I had a very tough mother. Melancholy, choleric, those are her temperaments. And I knew if I don't toe the line, my friend, it will be another story. And then I also had a very low self-esteem growing up. I think I always felt that I didn't fit the part. Coming from a family where I have a very strict mother, controlling, it's either her way or there's no highway, it is her way, period. So I grew up feeling like, there was always that feeling in me that I can't explain, but it was like I didn't belong. And it was such a sad feeling because I would see my friends, they are jumping and laughing all the time. But me, I was just not a happy child. I think my dad took us through very good moments, He would take us to nice places. Over the holidays, we would drive to Mombasa. There was no SGR, so we'd drive all the way from Ngong all the way to Mombasa. A very nice journey. He's playing for us country music. I grew up listening to Jim Reeves, Kenny Rogers, Crystal Gale, that age bracket. So I mean, those were nice times. But when I think about it years later, I was not really a happy child. I was not happy. So then I get to Form 5, and this is where I'm seeing culture shock, because I'm in a school with all kinds of races. Not that my parents were rich. My parents really sacrificed. To get me to that space, they really sacrificed a lot, because like I mentioned, I'm the firstborn. So they wanted me to open the door for the other 4. So I get to this place and I'm seeing people smoking. And me, the only time I'd seen people smoking is on TV, and they were not my skin color. So I'm shocked, and I'm seeing even girls who are smoking, and I'm like, wow, okay. So this particular girl in my class wanted to be my friend, and me, I couldn't understand why, because she's African, but she was everything that I thought I was not. She was very beautiful. I didn't think I was, because growing up in primary school, high school was different. Primary, I used to be told, no, you can't. You have big eyes, you have big lips. You know, even like in the primary school I was in initially, we used to have like prom nights. So girls would put makeup and whatever, and I used to be told, Caro, you can't put makeup, you're so ugly. Oh my God, it was terrible. Kids can be so mean. So I meet this girl, and she really wants to be my friend. She's popular. Me, I know I'm not. And then I discover later she was generous, and generous, you know what generous means, eh? And me, I was a virgin, pure until the day Jesus brings that man who will put this ring on this finger at the age of 24. And we quickly become friends. Then I discover this girl smokes. And me, I had never smoked. So she introduced me to my first cigarette, which I didn't like. So I moved to menthol cigarettes, and I smoked menthol for 19 years straight. So I got hooked on cigarettes very fast. And then she discovers Caro has never drank, Caro has never had sex. How she had had sex at the age of 15. No wonder she was so generous in school. You know, that generosity kept following her. And she knew there was a boy I liked in another international school, and she tells me, if you sleep with this guy, I'll bring you alcohol. Hey, and peer pressure is real, let me tell you. And I fell for it. So I'd been seeing this guy for about a year, but we had never done anything. We're just friends. So I called him up, and I don't think there's any guy in his right sense who would say no. So he was like, okay. So we go ahead. And again, I was a reader. I've always been a reader. So in high school, I used to read these romantic novels called Mills and Boone, Jackie Collins. You know, they romanticize the whole sex thing. And I'm thinking, wow, it's going to be like that. So come the D-Day, my God, it was nothing close to that. And but anyway, the deed has been done. And so on Monday, I go and report to my friend. And she's very excited. And true to her word, she brings me what she had promised to bring me, the alcohol. And it was a 250 ml, 12% red wine. And she tells me, because you've never drunk before, you make sure you drink it alone at night. You told me you have your own bedroom. So you'll open the window, because alcohol has a smell. And you drink it slowly. And I can remember the excitement of having this alcohol in my bag. Please note, a few months earlier, I had been caught those days, Hey, those days, it sounds so far. In 1999, to be exact, I had been caught with that. We used to have 10 bob notes, color green. I had been found with one in my diary. I can't explain where I got it from. I was beaten well. So now I'm imagining, if she finds booze in my bag, good Lord, it's a done deal. But anyway, I want to fulfill this, because she had told me to do this and I did, and now she has brought her promise. Let me go ahead and drink this thing. So I wait for everybody to sleep. Those days, news used to be at 8 p.m. So I've waited for people to go to bed. Now it's me alone in my bedroom with my window open and the lights off. I have checked, locked and relocked my door 3 times just to make sure nothing goes wrong. I've forgotten that tomorrow is a school day. So if I get drunk tonight, what will happen? It's not even crossing my mind properly. So I've waited for people to sleep. It's around midnight. It's a school night. Tomorrow I'm in school. Open my curtain, open my window, open the alcohol. Take the first sip, which I hated. It was terrible. I hated red wine, by the way, throughout my drinking life. Took a gulp, nothing. I'm not feeling anything. My brother, my direct follower, my brother once told me, because he started drinking before me, he told me, Caro, when you start drinking, because you will, when you drink and you see the alcohol is not getting into your system, you bend your head over to get a head rush, okay? So I remembered his words and I did exactly that. So I stood up, took a gulp, did the flipping thing. There is nothing. I'm normal. And I finished the whole 250 ml. I look at this bottle, I'm like, there's something wrong with this alcohol. So I put the bottle back in my bag and I go to bed. And I wake up in the morning fresh as a daisy. And I'm like, what? I go to school very disappointed and I tell my friend, you, whatever you gave me didn't work for me. She told me, then Carol, you have a problem. And that statement would follow me for 19 years. Within Form 5, I didn't drink again. Form 6, after we finished, we went out with my new boyfriend, my best friend, to a club in Westlands. There's a club called Q's. That's where we went, Crooked Q's. And now my new boyfriend is the one who is buying the alcohol. And so my best friend reminds me, do you remember last year I brought you alcohol and you didn't get high? Let's see what happens today. By this time, I'm already a heavy smoker. I'm doing up to 1 packet of cigarettes a day. And so I've had my first can of cider, nothing. Second one, third one, fourth one. It took the 6th one to take me out. And the only reason I knew it had taken me out is because I fell on my way to the washroom. And the next thing I remember is finding myself awake in their house, in my best friend's house. And I'm throwing up and all that. And I said, never will I touch alcohol again. But never, we are told never say never, because what you negate has a way of coming to you. It's the law of attraction. In January the following year, 2001, I got the privilege of going to study overseas. I was going to Malaysia to do a degree in advertising, multimedia and broadcasting. I was to do 2 years in Malaysia and 2 years in Australia. My parents had done a harambe for me to go. But immediately I got to Kuala Lumpur, I knew here I'll not make it because I just didn't want to be there. Then I was so used to being at home. So this culture shock and the homesickness really did it for me. But I progressed very quickly from the brown bottle to hard liquor. Because there's something in addiction we call tolerance. My tolerance levels had gone up. I could no longer do 3 beers and get high. I needed something to chase it with. So I started chasing beers with hard liquor. And now I was not only doing hard liquor, I started also doing marijuana because I discovered marijuana. But like we say on Facebook status, it's complicated. We parted ways amicably and I never looked back. So I moved and I'm gifted in so many ways, it's amazing. God just amazes me sometimes, actually a lot of times. I'm also a dancer, a very good dancer. So now, and I'm a crowd puller. It's always been like that, whether it's for good or bad. I've always been a crowd puller. So any club I would go, the clubs I would go were full of people from West Africa, South Africa, and now Kenya. Anywhere Carol would be, people would come. And so me, I never had to buy booze. Booze was always there. So my classes started suffering because I would miss classes because of the hangover and the withdrawal symptoms. And I would go and have to buy alcohol from a 7-Eleven or something. So my lecturer started calling home. And those days, I think cell phones had just checked in 2001. So if my parents wanted to communicate with me, they would send me an email. So I'd make sure by the time they're calling, I'm standard. I've not touched anything. So my parents would call me and ask me, we are hearing stories. You're not going to class. I'm like, who, me? I've just come from class. Maybe it's the communication barrier. Because them they're speaking their broken English in Eastern Asia. And these people on this other side of East Africa are speaking, the communication. But I couldn't keep up with the lies for long. So eventually I was kicked out of class. And my drinking had become so bad that if I was to count the number of times I almost died, they're uncountable because of being in funny car accidents with people who are driving drunk. I would find myself in clubs, in the toilet. I've blacked out on the floor. But funny enough, every time I would go out in trousers. So I'd find a man has tried to unzip me, but he's been unable. Not once, not twice, not thrice. But I always say it's because I had people who were praying for me back in Kenya. So it reached a point where I saw now here, my lecturers have cut my classes. You can't afford life in Malaysia as a student. If you're not working, it's very expensive. I only went to class, I think, properly for 1.5 semesters. And that was it. So when I come back to Kenya, my parents almost missed me at the airport because I was different. I was thin, I was dark. When I went, I was round, brown. I looked like something good. But I came back looking something different. And usually what happens with people who drink hard liquor over a prolonged period of time, it affects your melanin, that's your skin pigment, and you see it also starts eating your insides. And so my parents were so disappointed, and I remember it was a very long journey from Jomo Kenyatta to Ngong. Those days there was no bypass. So it's the full way and no one is talking. The car is silent. And the only thing I came back with were CDs for my youngest brother who wanted to learn about animation. And as we speak, he's been nominated for the Oscar Awards. So come March 2023, I wish and I pray he actually bags that award because he's really worked for that award. So by the time we get home, my mom is so annoyed. She's like, I'm not going back to school. I'm such a disappointment. I'll take care of the cows and do whatever. But my dad was able to help her to cool down. And I went to school. So I joined the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication and air travel related studies. I did a double diploma for 3 years, back to back. And I did very well. But in the last semester of my 3rd year, the drinking bug caught up with me. And I remember telling my parents I want to become a boarder in KIMC. By that time, I was a very good girl. I joined the choir. I was in CITAM. I was in the choir. Living a life, heading to heaven on the highway. No brakes. I'm on my way to heaven. Hallelujah. Then in the 3rd semester, my last semester, by the way, I was those people when I became a boarder, I was those people who are so deep in, these things of the faith, and my roommates were all drunkards. So I would sleep with a Bible. And I would tell them, let me speak in English because of the people who are watching overseas. I would tell them, you people, what you're doing is wrong. You need to get saved. You're wasting your life. And that time they've gone out on Friday, they've come back on Saturday. And I'm there preaching in the morning as I wait for them. They're abusing me, telling me, you, what do you know? You'll join us one day. I'm like, me, never. And like I said in the beginning, never say never. Because what you negate has a way of coming to work. One day, something entered my head and I said, you know what, why don't I join these guys? They used to go to Kenya Cinema. There were 2 clubs in Kenya Cinema. And I asked one of my friends, see, we go with you. I want to see what happens when you guys go out. They told me, Caro, are you sure? I said, me, I'm going to drink soda. You, a saved person like you're going to drink soda in a club. I said yes. So we took a cab and we went to Kenya Cinema. Me, I'm seeing people with their brown bottles there. Me, I have my Fanta Kubwa, my big Fanta, 500 ml. I took the first one. I took the second one. On the 3rd one, I told the barmaid, because we were seated at the counter, I told her, just give me the small Fanta. Then I told my friend next door, you just give me a little bit of Guinness. She asked me, do you know what you're doing? I said, yes, I know what I'm doing. So she put for me a little Guinness and I put Fanta. My friend, that was the sweetest drink I'd had in many years. And I drank it. Hey, me, I don't have money. Then I remembered my drinking days in Malaysia. Who is Caro? And I have the gift of the gab. Me, I'm telling you, we moved from that club on the 1st floor. There was a club for Congolese or Nigerians on the 4th floor. I cannot tell you what happened, but our table ended up being full of alcohol. The Caro who had gone to drink Fanta. We left Kenya Cinema on Sunday morning when guys are going to church. So as we had reached this point of the waiters are so comfortable with us, they tell us, you sleep, raise your legs, we will wipe for 3 days. Friday, Saturday, Sundays when we are going back. The guilt Justus I was carrying, I cannot explain. Sunday, because I used to go home on Saturday because of choir on Sunday. I don't show up for choir. I'm being called. My phone is off because of the guilt I'm carrying because of what I've done. So it went on like that. I started giving my parents lies, and that is how addiction starts. You start lying to the significant people in your circles. And also it's in the last semester, that's when I conceived my son, who is turning 17 next month. And 1st of December, he turned 17. And so I had to drop out of choir when the choir women discovered that Caroline seems a bit fatter than usual. She seems to be carrying someone or something. But when my mother would ask me, I would say, no, me, pregnant, how? But now I had become very big. So it was able for me I was able to hide my pregnancy throughout my pregnancy. I never went for antenatal, prenatal, all those natals that people go for. And towards the end, I was in such denial, it is ridiculous. And now my drinking escalated, my smoking escalated. Now every time I would make sure when my folks have gone out, that's when I come in. When they have come in, I'm in my bedroom and I've closed the door. I'm told to go and eat. I don't want to eat, I'm full. Like that. It went on like that until the eve to my delivery. I was drinking somewhere in Karen. There was a club in Karen. And I called my brother, the one who follows me, and I told him, come to Karen, we have a drink. And he comes. And as he's hugging me, he tells me, why do you look so big? I tell him, me big? You're the one who's drunk. I buy alcohol. And he bought, we drank until around 7. 7, we find ourselves in a matatu all the way to Ngong. When we reach home, you're so high, my dad is the one who opens the door. He says, you people are so drunk, you'll not even eat in my house. Go to your bedrooms and sleep. Get to my bedroom, I sleep until 3 in the morning. That 3 o'clock seems to have a thing, 3 o'clock. 3 a.m. I was woken up by back pains that are not back pains. I'm trying to sleep, I can't. Put my mattress on the floor, I can't. Now my pregnancy, I can't hide it anymore. It is here. Whatever happens, happens. My brother used to live in the main house, so I go and tell him, go and wake, I'm whispering, go and wake daddy. I'm not telling him, mommy, I'm telling him, go and wake daddy. He is asking me, what's wrong? I tell him, I think I'm sick. So he didn't know what's going on. So he goes, he knocks on their door and he tells daddy, Cara is saying she's sick. But who comes? My mom. Now my pregnancy is all over. I can't hide it. So my mom asks me, are you pregnant? I told her no. So she laughed and went and woke my dad. And my dad was told, take her to the hospital. So my dad is clueless. He comes, we enter the car and we go down our road. It was very rough at that time. So me and my big stomach, there's a lot of pain, but I can't tell him what's going on. And so we get to the dispensary. So I'm put into a room. They start telling me about dilation. I have no idea what dilation is. The next thing I'm hearing, my dad is being told, congratulations, you're going to be a grandfather. So I had my dad asking the doctor, grandfather to what? So the doctor tells him, your daughter is going to give birth. My father asks him, which daughter? Then the doctor, he's deceased now, he tells my dad, Mr. Kagia, which daughter have you brought? Oh, you mean Caro? She's pregnant. Oh, okay. And he goes. I heard later he found my mom seated on the bed at 4 in the morning now. He's telling her, congratulations, you're going to be a grandma. And he slept and moved on with life. Now, because of the alcohol in my system, my labor was so intensive. I was in labor for 26 hours. It was so bad, but it had reached a point where I couldn't even be taken for a C-section or anything. So they had to suction my son out because at some point, he and I almost didn't make it. That's how bad it was. But he's alive and he's doing very well, and I thank God for that. And as if having a baby now would stop me from drinking, my drinking escalated because 4 months after I delivered, I was privileged to get my first job at a media house. So I was in sales, I've been in sales. I was in sales and marketing for the longest time. And now with predictable income, I started drinking even more because now I have a salary at the end of the month. And now I started disappearing from home. And here I have a child at home who is being taken care of by one of my sisters and my parents. And me, I'm all over the place. I would lie. Those days, that station was trying to build itself. Now it's the #1 station in Kenya. So we used to do a lot of road shows. So me, I would lie, I'm going for road shows. But me, primarily, I was just going to drink. So my son had a very unstable childhood because of a very unstable mother. So eventually I moved out of home. I moved to Rongai. And I lived in Rongai for 2 years. So I was known by all the clubs and all the pubs in Rongai because I was like furniture. And it was a terrible life. Then somewhere in my work experience in that media house, I quit. I just quit. And 2 weeks later, I was privileged to get a job with an international media house. And now my salary had tripled. And so did my drinking. And it reached a point where my drinking became so bad that by the time my son was 3 years, he had fallen sick at the age of 3 and was admitted at Gertrude's. I was not living with him. Me, I was out living. Now I'd moved from Rongai because Rongai, my things had been auctioned because I was not paying rent. So I found a way. I got a loan from a Shylock and moved to Zimmerman. Now, on a Friday, I'm in a bar somewhere on Standard Street, and I'm called and I'm told Michael is sick. You need to come to the hospital. So I go to the hospital. And the nurse is like, oh, you're Michael's mom. Come and give him medicine. And I'm trying to give him medicine, but my hands are all over the place. I can't focus on his mouth. My hand is shaking so badly. And I remember my dad was seated somewhere. And my dad is just looking at me. He didn't say anything. He said, clearly, you can't give him medicine. Now he says in my local dialect, you go back where you came from. So happily I look at my son and I enter a cab and I go back to the same drinking spot. You know, no inclination, no guilt, no remorse, nothing. After all, he's in the hands of my parents. And so I continue with my drinking, and I remember that night my dad wrote me a very long text telling me that I'm sick. This is in 2007, that I'm sick and I need help. But who is Caro? To continue with life like that. In fact, that international media house is the only job that I regret having lost, because the contract ended. It was with a South African company and a local company. It didn't work out. So now from there, I think if I was to be asked about my work experience, that's where now my jobs started going down, because now the salary started decreasing. And as it continued decreasing, my alcohol intake continued. But now I'm drinking cheaper brands than what I was used to before, because I didn't know I was sick. And that's the problem with alcoholism. One never knows they are sick. The people around me are the ones who knew I was sick, because it's normally the people around you who can observe you. I mean, I'd go to a pub to sit and drink, and people would tell me, Caro, you drink so fast. I didn't know that was a problem. Alcoholism is such a crazy thing that some of the things I have done, Kenya Cinema, I'm telling you, if the workers who used to work in Kenya Cinema could write a story about Caroline, they would. Me, I've gone to Kenya Cinema. There was a bar called Winkers. I have gone to Winkers to drink without a shilling in my pocket, knowing that somebody will come to buy me alcohol. That's why I used to sit at the counter. That day, nobody came. Nobody came. I have no money. I have nothing. Nobody came. And now the barman has started looking at me funnily, because now he can see I'm looking around. Nikauliza, madam. Now he has even stopped calling me Caro. Initially we were friends. Now it has reached madam. Madam, ndio hii bill. Umeitisha pilsner, umeitisha kuku, umeitisha. Sulipe, tunataka kufunga. Ngoja, nangojea mtu. Finally, one person came. This guy came for one drink, because that's the only money he had in his pocket. I was locked up in the store that night. I was locked in the store of Winkers. It was so embarrassing. I was wearing boots. They removed me one boot and left me with one boot and locked me in the store the whole night. The whole night. In the morning, I'm waiting for somebody to come. Imagine nobody has come. They felt so much pity for me. They told me, sasa vile tutafanya ndivyo ukue funzo kwa wengine. You will walk from inside this bar mpaka stage ya South B. You told us you live in South B with one shoe. Do you know, I walked. I can laugh about it now. I walked from Winkers until the stage of South B with one shoe, with somebody following me so that they can give me the other shoe and give me 50 bob to take a matatu. Me, I don't even know where I'm going. I can't go to my mother's house looking like that. So I remember I had a friend in South B. I walked until her house. She looked at me, she said, what has brought you here? I said, me, I don't have money, but you're smelling of alcohol. I drank it all. Even now she was a drunkard. She told me, come and stay here for a few days as you sort out yourself. Those few days turned out into weeks. Eventually, she kicked me out because I ate everything in her fridge. Her boyfriend came. I stole from the boyfriend money. I was kicked out. I looked for another friend in Gumo. As in, I became a bum. You know, I'm a bum, and yet I have a child at home. And I have parents. My parents are not poor, but I've reached a point of I need a drink, and I will do anything by any means necessary to have that drink. Me, I have done things. I remember once taking a phone to a bar. It was a nice phone, but it was dead. As in dead, it can't work. Even if you take it away, it can't work. I gave it to the barman with the charger. I told him, "If phone ni chargie hapo." He looked at the phone and was like, this chick knows what she's doing. I've drank. My other phone is on silent in the pocket. Whenever I want to pick it, I go to the toilet. Okay? So I know what I'm doing. But this other one is charging. So this man is sure. This girl, you know, I mean, which female survives without a phone? And then he's asking me, you don't want to switch on your phone, you talk to people. I said, no, me, I'm okay. Me, I came for silence. I've drank. My bill reached 3K. I told him, goja, nakuja. And that was it. I left. I have done crazy things. I left a dead phone with a barman who had to pay a bill of 3K. I never passed that route for a very long time. I have done crazy things in my drinking. Crazy, some I can't even remember. I have done things. I've sold laptops, not selling intentionally. The way you take a loan from a Shylock and you're unable to repay. 2 laptops, both belonging to my dad. One he had sent me to Dubai to get it. I got it. I came. And I never used to take loans for anything, to make a business or anything. It was for drinking and to be the life of the party. Because I discovered I'm also a people pleaser. And I wished for company. So I would buy for people alcohol. So that people pleasing also got me into very funny relationships with men that I would ordinarily not have gotten into. So I ended up being the used one because there was something I was looking for that I was not getting, you know? And so I've sold things. Towards the end of my addiction, I sold everything in my house. I sold my fridge. I sold my seats, the way you see men doing. I sold my gas cooker, and in place I bought these green stoves, the ones for 300 bob, the ones you cook with kerosene. That one. I sold my son's bike. I sold my daughter's baby cot. In the morning she wakes up nicely. 2 hours later she walks into the bedroom. She looks around. There's no bed. She just does, and she moves on. I sold my 7-seater for 5,000 bob. I had gotten a buyer for my passport. I didn't know passports could be bought, but I'd gotten a buyer. This same Shylock, who is now my very good friend on Facebook, once came to my house because now he has bought everything. He bought me a 750 ml. We sat on the floor in my house as he's asking me, Caro, truly, what is going on in your life? Why are you selling everything? So I'm telling him, here, I'm moving to Dubai. My father is a developer, so he had given my children and I a house. And now that same house is the one that I'm selling things. So eventually this Shylock looked at the doors of my house and told me, Caroline, your doors are very nice. And he left it at that. Now when I had hit rock bottom, it is now my doors and my passport to go. I sent him a please call me, like a reverse call. And I told him, come, open all the doors in this house. Chukua kila kitu. Chukua, funganisha zote. Akaniuliza zote Karo. Nikamwambia zote. My house was a 3-bedroom, own compound. He opened all the wooden doors in that house. And he took them for guess how much? 500 shillings. 500 bob. What did I do with that 500 bob? I went to my wines and spirits person. I bought 3 quarters. They were going for 120 bob. I bought 3 tunusus. I bought my cheap cigarettes of 5 bob. I bought my daughter Weetabix for 20 bob. I bought her 1 diaper, and the money was gone. That night, I had a thirst that I can't even explain. So there's a thing that also comes with alcoholism or any sort of addiction, even gambling. We become liars and manipulators. Me, I already told you, I'm a salesperson. Me, I can sell anything, and it will go. Anything, name it, it will go. Even this grass, I'll just get it a buy and it will go. So me, I had become so good at conning people that I would send people, please call me. And someone will call me. And by the time you have finished that conversation, I have 1,000 bob on my phone. I've told you that my child has no food, which is true. My child has no food. You send me 1,000 bob, they have already planned. And those are my motura person, these people who sell moturas and boiled eggs on the streets, right around the corner. So I was sure. I always knew that night, every night, and I would have to have a quarter at my bedside in the morning because the reality of what my life had become was too much for me. I mean, I've come from a good family, I've gone to good schools, I've worked even internationally. The people who are in my class are doing so well, they're high flyers. Yet, whenever I go to town and I see them, I would hide myself because I've become a lesser version of myself. I'm wearing even 2 pairs of trousers to look like I have meat on my bones because there's no meat on me, it's gone, it's been finished by the hard liquor. Showering has become a thing of the past. I would go even for months without showering. Forget the fact that I'm a woman and I'm in my reproductive year, so you can imagine all that. I'm not showering. If I'm to go to the wines and spirits, I mean, what are they called? Roll-on. I stopped wearing roll-on after I left rehab because they remind me of my dark days. Roll-on, you know, you do some crazy things in your addiction. Me, I've gone to a wines and spirits, and I did it intentionally. I hope one day she'll watch this and forgive me. I befriended that girl because she was so innocent. She was just working there. And so one day I had so much thirst for alcohol and such heavy withdrawal symptoms that I went to her and started crying and telling her the way my house is about to be locked, I don't have food, just help me for today. She said, oh, okay, just enter behind here, watch for me the shop as I cook for us lunch. Where is your daughter? I had taken my daughter to a daycare where I would pay 100 bob, which I didn't have. So as the girl is busy cooking for us eggs and ugali behind there, me the kabaga I had carried, I'd put five halves, not even quarters, 5 halves of alcohol, have stolen 500, have stolen cigarettes. Me, I am sorted for the next few days. The girl has cooked, she has come, we have eaten. Then all of a sudden I pretend my phone has rung, I need to dash out. My baby wants to be picked from the daycare. Me, I'm ready, I have 500, I have 5 halves in my bag. And I walk out quietly, and I disappeared. The things I've done in addiction, some I can't even say them here. I think I'll carry some things to the grave. But I have led a very colorful and very dark life in my 20 years of alcoholism. You know, when it comes to alcoholism stems from 2 things, either genetic predisposition meaning it's in your family lineage. You know, there are people who suffer from it, so unfortunately you're caught up in it. Or it could be as a result of your choices. For me, initially I used to think it was genetic predisposition, but now I'm not so sure that it is. I think for me it was as a result of my choices. I also think it was because of things that happened in my childhood that I never brought to the surface, that I never dealt with. And I can't believe this is the first time I'm actually sharing this. This is amazing. Wow. Wow. Okay. Yeah. It could be also as a result of, why am I sharing this today? This could be as a result of things that happened in your childhood that that got stuck in your subconscious. I remember now that we are talking about this, good Lord. I had an uncle who tried to sexually molest me when I was in class 4. And I never got to talk about it until now. This is ridiculous. Wow. I have never spoken about this. Wow. Anyway, so there was this uncle who tried to have his way with me. He used to live with us. No, he never used to live with us, but he used to come. My mother's brother. He used to come. He was in Form 4, I was in Class 4. So he tried to have his way with me on different occasions. But I never spoke about it. And then there was also this house girl who tried the same thing when I was growing up. And now it makes sense. I think when I was also in Class 4, I was introduced to masturbation by my best friend. She's in the US. Well, you know, I think sometimes you just have to speak some things openly for healing. My parents and her parents were best friends. So we used to do these sleepovers, which I really tell parents, I really discourage parents from these sleepovers. You take your children, I don't know where. You never know what goes on there, because that's how I was introduced to masturbation at the age of 10. So I think these are the things I've carried silently for years that I never dealt with, and so I'll try to numb them with alcohol. And now at the age of 42 is when I'm actually talking about it live, and I've never even shared this with a therapist. So thank you, Justus, for this healing journey that you've begun to take me on without knowing. So I think those things are what caused me to become what I became. But for somebody like me, yeah, it's the underlying issues. And then I also had a very difficult relationship with my mother, which I talk about briefly in my book, Still I Rise. This same book that almost got me to be shot down by my own family because of mentioning my mother. I went through hell because of that book. And I say it publicly now that I have no regrets having written that book, because it was a fact that I had a very difficult relationship with my mom growing up. And because of that book, I was able to get people to talk about this thing that we don't talk about in Africa called the mother wound, whereby you were wounded by your mother, either knowingly or unknowingly, and you've carried these things into your adulthood, into your relationships with your significant others. We pass it on to our children without you. I wounded my children without knowing. Because my mother could be very cold. My mother could shut you off for even a month, and you live in the same house and you don't talk. I started doing the same things with my own children when they make me angry. Until one time my son pointed it out and was like, "Why are you behaving like Shosho?" And so I have carried a lot of pain. That mother wound, I've carried it for years and years, that resentment, that silent anger. And so to take out my issues on the bottle, because the bottle cannot hurt me, and not because I can't approach her, and any time I tried, it would be like, there's nothing you're talking about, as in, what the hell are you talking about? So I've carried that for years. So I tried to numb that, plus all these other incidents I've mentioned with my uncle and a house help. I numbed it with alcohol. But you see, in the end, that alcohol is the one that almost finished me off. These people are still alive. My mother is still there. My uncle is still there. This house girl must still be alive. But I'm sure whatever she did, she must have done to other people also. My uncle, I know, has done it to other people. So the problem with addiction, and not necessarily just alcohol, even people who you find struggling with masturbation or pornography, they were introduced to it by somebody. Or they saw something when they were growing up that has caught them, that made them stick there. Even people who are caught up in gambling, it started from somewhere. But primarily this masturbation and porn and alcohol and drugs, you were introduced to it by somebody. And now you use it to numb things that you are not able to deal with when you're sober. It's a very dark place to be, and that is why you find many people don't come out of it. Many people get stuck in it, and you see things like even that masturbation and pornography, they come with depression. You see people who, things like alcohol and drugs, they are written on your face. They show because of your the way your body becomes. But things like porn and masturbation, it's not written on your face. It's a hidden, and if you're a Christian like me, it's a hidden sin. It's a secret sin, and you battle with it silently. And that's why you end up suffering from depression, because of those things that you're trying to hide, but your spirit knows that those things are wrong, you see. So addiction is any kind of addiction is a stronghold. However way you choose to look at it, it's a stronghold. It ties you. I've been to rehab twice. The first time was when I've done everything. I've sold everything, Bona. The only thing I've not sold is my soul to the devil. By the time I had reached there, I had sunk so low that I had said, now, what I'm going to do is, my son was already living with my parents by this time. And the reason my son was living with my parents is because we used to fight physically. And that time, now, you met him. Now I can't fight with this guy. If I try, my friend, I'll talk to... I would beat him so badly, and I didn't realize I would fight him because it's me I was fighting. And it's because I think the dad had rejected me, so in turn I was rejecting my son. And one time I beat him up so badly that it was on a New Year, we were at home. And he found me trying to smoke, and he took away the cigarette, only for him to show me the marks I had put on his body the following day because of beating him. That shocked me. And so my parents took him. And me had said, now, since my son is away, I'll give out my daughter for adoption. I'd already bought poison. I'd bought rat. And I take this thing and I finish it. But just before it happened, or before even that day came, 2 days before my dad came to my house, he walked in. He walked in. There are no doors, Bwana. The doors went. So he walked in and he asked me, were you auctioned? I told him I was not auctioned. I'm high, by the way, so I'm having a high conversation. And I told him I was not auctioned. I sold because I don't have anything. I don't have work. And he looked at me and said, now in our dialect, he said, Jerry, you are named after my mom, and I loved my mom so much. And you're going to beat this thing. You've refused to go for rehab. When you're ready, just let me know. And he asked me, where's the baby? I don't even know where my daughter is. She's somewhere, but with my hazy eyes, I can't see her. She's somewhere in the compound. So he entered his car and he drove off. And let me tell you, I reached such a dark point where even the windows in my bedroom, in my house, not my bedroom, the windows, the mirrors, I had covered all of them. I never wanted to see any light because I knew what I'd become. I felt so ugly. I felt so old. You know, when you drink every day and it's heavy drinking, your body starts getting tired. And I was so worn out emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. I was not praying. Who am I praying to? What am I telling this God that I have let down? You know, I am no longer the person who he had created me to be. Me, for whatever reason, the morning I was going to take poison, something in me just told me no. That is the day I removed all the coverings of my windows and my mirrors. And I looked at myself, and in my heart I said, God damn it, my God, this girl is so ugly, but she's not going to die. So I sent my dad, please call me. By this time, he's the only one, because the guys have realized Caro has a problem. She's become a thief also. She's conning guys. So my dad asked me, what is it? I said, I need to see you. He said, you know where we live, you come. He's not even asking me if I have fare. And chances are, if he had sent me fare, I would have drank it. So I walked all the way from Matasia until their home, 6 kilometers away, carrying a baby in a carrier bag. Thank God I had not sold it. The only reason I had not sold it is because I had not found a buyer. So I carried the baby. We walked all the way in the only shoe I had not sold because that shoe looked like the floor. I am having withdrawals, I'm sweating, yet my baby still wants to breastfeed. So I think my daughter actually breastfed a bit of alcohol for a long time. I walked all the way until home. I am shaking. My father took the baby, gave the baby to the house help. Then he asked me, now you have come. He asked me, do you want to drink water? Yes. He tried to give me water. I said, save it. He put the water in my mouth himself. He said, swallow it, then we talk. He asked me, you've come. What can I do for you? I said, me, I need help. Oh, finally, 10 years later, you want help? Yes. Okay. And a week later, I checked into rehab. And for me, that was a great point in my life. I had forgotten how to speak. I didn't know how to speak. It's possible for your brain to freeze because I was used to speaking to my 6-month-old baby and the bottle. I checked into rehab. I couldn't even talk. I couldn't even say my own name. That's where I had reached. It was so bad. It was frightening. It's like my brain had begun shutting down. Funny enough, I was done a liver test. My liver was in check. So I was in rehab, and that's where I started speaking again. And I discovered I could speak. And I rededicated my life to Christ, and I became even the chairlady of the treatment facility. Hiya. Then a day to my 37th birthday, I left. And I left, and the day I left, I cried because I was not sure what I was going to find on the outside. And before I knew it, the person who owned the facility was so impressed by my speaking skills, she took me to the first TV station I ever was on is MBCI in Nakuru. And before that, things just started opening up. I'm on TV, I'm here, I'm there, I'm here and there. And this thing has a way of getting to your head. Please remember, nobody had prepared me for this fame. Nobody had prepared me. Me, I was in Kikuyu, we call it Wamonyota. Me, I'm those people. I mean, I was like a drunkard of Matasia. Now, all of a sudden, from drunkard to celeb, no one prepared me for this. And before I knew it, 2019, I had been invited to go and speak in the States. Everything was looking up until Mutahi Kagwe decided lockdown. So people are not going anywhere. And for me, I think that just kind of culminated into my relapse. Because I remember the day he made that announcement, I walked to the Wines and Spirits, bought a 750 ml vodka, came and checked into my bedroom. But by the time I was opening that thing, I was feeling so guilty. Because I knew, I'm remembering all the things I've done. My bedroom was full of newspaper cuttings, Standard, Nation, name it, of every media house I've been to. And here I am sipping something that is not water, tea, porridge, soda. And I knew what I was doing was wrong. But for me, I felt, I can't explain what I felt. And at that moment, it was my defining moment. I remembered my brother had told me, Caro, you are not ready for rehab. You went to rehab because there was no way out for you. It hit me at that point that if actually someone had called me and given me a job, that point when I had sold everything, I would have taken that job. So for me, my relapse was because truly, I went to rehab, I had hit rock bottom, but if somebody had given me a way out, I would have taken the way out. You see, so I relapsed. And the first person to pick it up was my son. Asked me, Mommy, have you been drinking? I said, no. Before I knew it, my dad has known. So 2019, I involuntarily checked into rehab. The first time was voluntary. The second time was not. This is a story many people don't know. In fact, many people are going to hear it for the first time. But I relapsed. And like they say, relapse is part of recovery. Me, I relapsed. And now I also remember the letter that I was given after I left rehab the first time. My counselor wrote, Carol will make it, but she's overconfident. And that overconfidence is what made me relapse. And relapse was bad, my friend. I relapsed properly and I've had so many lapses in between. But those lapses have made me come out stronger. Now I'm sober. And I realized that alcoholism can happen to anybody. It can catch anybody. Just that one sip. Because how does it start? It starts with one drink. You know, it starts with one drink. You decide, like those people who say, me I only drink on Fridays. That's how it starts. Me I used to drink only on Fridays. Then it moved to Saturday. Then it moved to Wednesday. Let me wait for traffic to reduce. Then that traffic you're waiting to reduced at 8 o'clock. But 9 o'clock you're still in the club waiting for traffic. Then before you know it, it's a daily thing. Then before I knew it, I was carrying vodka in my handbag to put in my 10 o'clock tea in the office. You see, because in alcoholism there are stages. We start with the social stage, where many people, me only drink 1, 2, then I go home. Then it becomes compulsive. There's a party, there's a baby shower. These baby showers we used to drink. There's a wedding. You know, there's a party going on somewhere. So it's a compulsive thing. Then from compulsion, you move to habitual. Habitual is where by now, it's like almost an everyday occurrence. I have to drink. You always have a reason to drink. My neighbor's cat died. Let me drink. The cow in Ushago died. Mama Nani's cow was eaten by the elephant. I drink. Then before you know it, you've moved into addiction. And let me tell you, Justus, so many people are struggling with addiction and they don't know. Calling themselves functional alcoholics. Tell a functional alcoholic not to drink for 2 days. You will see the difference in even how they operate in their work life, in their home life, in everything they do. There'll be a difference. For me as Caroline, I always say me as an addict from the word go. Me, I'm not the kind of a person to sit and have 2 beers, I go home. 2 beers will give me a headache. Genuinely, I will have a headache. I used to sit with my ex and we drink. The guy has blacked out me. I'm looking at this guy and thinking, problem? So me, I used to go, I cannot drink, I cannot leave a club because money has gotten finished. That's a lie from the devil. I will find more money and I will drink until my body gives way. The number of times I have found I've been taken home are countless. And we are in that space where alcoholism is becoming crazy. I'm told in Nairobi alone there are 12,000 pubs. In Nairobi alone, 12,000. All over their liquor stores, you can see them. They are popping up like popcorn everywhere. You can imagine what that is doing to people who are trying to recover from alcoholism. And for this younger generation, my son and that age bracket going downwards, God forbid, who will find themselves stuck in a rut. And especially with women. I was in a girls' school a few months back and I discovered what girls are doing nowadays. Because even them, they start drinking over the holidays. And because they're addicted, they still have to continue drinking in school. So what do? These things that parents are told to buy, you know, the jig and whatever, you pour out the jig, you pour in vodka, you carry. That's not bad enough. Number 2, you put tampons. Tampon, you soak it in vodka and wear the tampon. And you go to class. And you see now the problem with that one is that it goes directly to your heartstream, to your bloodstream, affecting your heart as well. So your teachers can see there's something off with you, but there's no smell. Boys are also using tampons, but putting it from behind. That's where we have reached as a nation in this country of Kenya. It's on a very worrying upward trajectory. And unless something is done, I don't know where we are headed. The children who will be born from these women who are drinking like that are in problems. Those are children who are going to be born with problems like fetal alcohol syndrome distress. You know, it is there. I have seen it even in closer circles. Women who have been drinking throughout their pregnancy and the babies who are born have complications. And those children never grow to be normal children like other children. Mine are who they are. It is purely the mercy of God. I don't take it for granted. But if I was to have another baby today, I would not be stupid enough to go through that path because God just chose to have mercy on me. There are not many who have been shown that mercy. But that covering is on my children. This new phase of sobriety has brought so many changes in my life. I look at life so differently and so humbly. I never thought I would relapse, but I did. But now I'm conscious of the things that drew me to relapse. You see, because relapse starts from, you don't just walk into a bar or to a wine and spirits and buy alcohol. It started in the mind. My relapse had started 2 years prior to whatever happened, and now I'm more conscious. I used to be a very judgmental person. I used to judge very harshly, and I was very self-righteous with these people who relapse. These people you find sleeping on the streets because they have drunk, until I became one of them. I have also learned to be more accommodating, because let me tell you, everyone is struggling with something. Just because you see somebody driving a big car and dressed nice and smelling good and smiling doesn't mean they're not struggling. Everybody is struggling with something. I have learned to be more, I choose to believe I've become more of a listener and more loving. Just accepting people as they are, because truly you just accept people as they are. My dad always says, accept people as facts. Once you accept people as facts, your life will be much better. And also, this has drawn me closer to God. I love Jesus. I try to love him more every day, and to love his people. And it has helped me also to love women more and to understand women from where they are coming from, We are all struggling. I'm not saying men are not, but we are the ones who give birth. We are the child bearers, And that is why I started that initiative, Carolinekagiawellness initiative, targeting women, to help women, because it's so unfortunate that in Africa, alcoholism, especially amongst the African woman, is still the elephant in the room. It is still an enigma. It is still stigmatized. It's like HIV and AIDS in the 90s. It is still talked about in closed doors until your daughter or your mother or your wife or your girlfriend dies from it. And then in the obituaries, they write sudden illness. Yet it was all alcohol related. There are so many women who are struggling with this thing. And so I came out to speak about it using my own story, because my story is authentic and people are struggling and they need to speak out so that they can be helped. And for me, I'm very passionate about it. I'm very passionate about talking to women on wellness, emotional wellness, mental wellness, alcoholism. I can never, and I'm looking for anyone who can come on board, as a partner, or who can see the vision, who can see what I'm doing to help elevate this initiative of mine and take it as far as it can to help as many women as I can while on this side of heaven. My initiative, which started out as just me, has drawn reactions, mostly good, from many people who have wanted to work with me to help other people. By the grace of God, I've been able to speak locally and internationally, sharing my story, helping people. My initiative has also given birth to my book, Still I Rise. It talks about my journey in alcoholism and the takeaways from my lessons, that you do not have to go through what I went through. Just learn from me. You don't have to dip your head or your toes inside to go through what I went through. You may not survive. Me, I did. But my story, I think God put me in this space as an example to others that, just help other people. So I've given birth to my book, and I'm praying to God that he will open those international circles for me to share widely and, give hope to those who are struggling. There's also one thing I never mentioned, that because of my alcoholism, I've had 2 miscarriages back to back. I think that is one thing I'm not sure I'll ever truly be able to forgive myself for, because I knew what I was doing. I was pregnant, but I was still drinking. And so the babies were never able to come to term. And I always say that pregnancy and alcoholism don't mix. Pick one, either to be a mother or to drink. Choose one. And so I think that is one of the biggest regrets in my life, in my addiction journey, and the fact that I also almost lost my 2 children. Because of my addiction, I almost lost my daughter and my son to the government. Wow, yeah, I almost lost my children because of alcoholism to the government. So alcoholism doesn't smile with anybody. You check in thinking it's just fun times. almost lost my life. I've almost lost my children, almost lost my entire family because of me. And there's a saying we say that alcoholism is a very selfish disease, you know. And also it is not a spectator sport. It affects everyone around you. Me, I'm alive today just as by the grace of God. And that is why I'm so vocal in sharing my story. There are some people who've tried to hit back saying, you're a woman, you shouldn't be talking about these things, especially you're a woman and you're a single parent. How do you think it will affect your children later in life, or even maybe anybody who'd want to marry you? But me, I say, you know what? God put me here for this purpose, for a time such as this, to educate anybody who is contemplating getting into drinking, by the way. It does not smile at anybody, and it is also not a respect of gender. It cuts across. Children are also experimenting with alcohol, by the way. And this one I want to point out to parents, because this is what really pisses me completely. You're a parent. You drink in your house. Your children are there. You think they are 4 years, 5 years, they don't know what you're doing. Mom, what are you drinking? Dad, what are you drinking? This is my dawa. On Sunday, you take them out. After church or wherever you normally go in the morning, and then you come and take your kids out in the afternoon. You have your beers on the table. Your children are drinking soda. Your children can see what you're doing. Your children can see you staggering. Your children can see you, daddy and mommy, fighting, and they can see you people don't look okay. Sometimes you tell your child, just taste, it's sweet. What do you expect later in life? And your children can see what you're doing. And you're the same one who will come to look for me later. Caro, please help my son, he's drinking. Yet you as a parent, you drink. What are you doing? You're preaching water and drinking wine. For who now? Parents have a role to play. I don't care what anybody says. Parents have a big role to play. You have your chama friends, you bring them home. You are drinking with your buddies there. Your kids are not stupid. And then later in life, when your child is suspended from school from drinking or for smoking a cigarette, you want to whip them. You're whipping them as who? As what authority? What authority do you have over your child? There was a time I used to drink, and I used to drink heavily in the house. One time I asked myself, surely what authority do I have as a parent? What moral authority do I have to tell my son, don't drink or don't smoke? Who am I talking to him as? My son has ever found alcohol in my room, not once, not twice. He tasted, and he told me later, Mommy, I can never touch these things. These are what you used to drink. What good has it done? Imagine my own child trying to put wisdom in my head. And so parents, do not have a conversation with your children about alcohol or substances if you yourself, you're drinking. There are parents who call me, tell me, come and talk to my son or my daughter. They are drinking. You yourself as the parent, you're drinking. When you take that child to rehab and the child comes out and you're still drinking, why should that child drink? You should all be a drinking family, drinking nation in your family. Be happy like that. But I always tell people, don't call me telling me to advise your son or your daughter, yet you yourself, you're drinking. The buck stops there. Even you as a parent, stop. If you want this child to stop, even you stop. You know, the onus is on us as parents to educate our children. But you can't tell them this thing and yet you're doing the other. It doesn't work like that. Right now, there's a wave that's going on of these kids who are drinking and smoking and trying to... There's this affiliation they have towards the West whereby they are copying what their musicians... Even us, we used to do it. We used to try and copy what our guys are doing. In fact, if you notice, the teenagers in this dispensation are wearing the way we used to dress in the 90s, baggy jeans, baggy T-shirts. Please, it's nothing new, guys. Just get with the program. And for those who are trying to get into alcohol right now, thinking it's the new craze, it's been there before. Even in the Old Testament, it was there. And there are no benefits. And I'll repeat again, me, I made it because of the mercies of God. And you getting into it, there's no guarantee that you're going to make it. So for goodness sake, if you have not started, don't start. And if you're struggling with it, seek help while there is still time. If you feel you cannot talk to your parents, look for a trusted voice. It could be in your church or a friend or even a relative that you feel you could talk to. Talk to them and they could walk you through this process of getting yourself out of what you already are in. There's another thing I always tell people also to do. There are people who say, but me, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't bang people's cars. I don't fight with the cat or my wife or anything. There's something we call the CAGE test, C-A-G-E. This test helps you identify if you're struggling with any sort of addiction, not necessarily alcoholism. C stands for cut down. Have you tried to cut down on your drinking and you've been unable? A stands for anger. Have you been angry with yourself or have others been angry at you due to the way you drink? G stands for guilt. Do you feel guilty every time you go to open a bottle? And E stands for eye opener or kutoa lock. Do you find yourself having to kutoa lock in the morning because of the way you drank the night before? If you've answered yes to any of the above, C-A-G-E, you are either in addiction or you are headed there very fast. It is time to seek help while there is still time. I remember when I was going to rehab, because me, I used to drink in the house. I'd stopped drinking in the bar. So I'd become a closet drinker because of the rate at which I would drink. So I used to I had like a small shamba somewhere next to my house. So I would throw the bottles inside the kashamba. And this was the last batch that was collected because now I was in rehab and I can't hide. There was a truck that used to come and I would throw in the bottles with big paper bags. And those men in the truck, those ones for takataka, would look at me, those ones are... Okay, because I knew there's no man in that house. So these bottles must be mine. And it used to be, and I used to remove those things at night when my neighbors are asleep because I knew what I was doing. My tolerance, and funny enough, my tolerance for a lot of things is very high. Fortunately and unfortunately. So my dad tells me that when he took me to rehab the first time, they came to that shamba and he just decided to do a count. And so these are bottles, because towards the end I drank a lot of alcohol within 6 months prior to my going to rehab. He took a photo of that picture, he did a WhatsApp picture and sent the photo to one of my brothers. And he said he was so shocked, he stood there and cried because he couldn't understand how I still had a liver. They collected 800 bottles. There was no man in that house. There was no man who ever slept in that house. He showed me those photos later and he asked me in Kikuyu, whose paper bags were these? I said, oh, these were mine. He said, do you know how many bottles I counted? I told him I don't want to know. He said, no, I'll tell you. There were 800. 800. Like, I can't explain. God put me here for this. God put me here to teach people, not for me to boast and brag that I'm alive, that I never suffered liver cirrhosis or never had a car accident or I have no scars to show. God put me here for such a time as this to tell people that, especially women, that you can beat this thing. By the way, let me tell you, it's not rehab. Rehab is not magic. Even when you go to a doctor with an ailment, the doctor does not tell you this thing might never come back. It's like rehab. Any rehab owner who will tell you, once they have finished the process, 90 days, they'll never relapse, they are liars. It can happen. But you know what? I've chosen not to relapse again by what? First, on focusing on the word of God, and two, by my mindset. Mindset is everything. Your mindset is everything. And for me, I've had to have a paradigm shift. That means 360 degrees. Changing the way I think about everything. Changing about how I view myself. My goodness, your mind is so powerful. Your mind is so powerful. And that is the best way to beat addiction. For those who don't believe in God, they're told about their higher powers. I don't know what their higher powers are. Me, mine is God. Mine is Yahweh. Mine is Jesus. He's my higher power. But besides that, my mind is everything. Just as your mind can make you or break you. Many people relapse time and time and time again, not because the rehab they were in was not good, but because they have chosen to stay in that space of, I can never be better than this. Hey, me, I'm a high flyer. That one I know. And it has taken the grace of God and my own mind to shift. You have to speak to yourself every day. You have to speak positivity. You have to speak life into your mind. There are times my kids find me talking alone. They're like, now today you're too much. I'm like, but you see, this is why we are here right now. Don't you think so? It's because I've spoken those things that are not as though they are. And they are coming to be. So mindset. Shift your mindset. There are many people who are in recovery like me, and I'm grateful for everybody who is in recovery like me that is intentional, not the word, intentional in their recovery, not sipping here and there and thinking you'll make it. You're lying to yourself. There are people who give up along the way, not because they don't have a strong support system. Like me, I thank God I have a very strong support system. There are people who die, and I mean literally die, in their addiction or even in the path of recovery, not because they don't have a support system, it's because they have given up on them. You are finding people in your circles have progressed. You have mark timed, you have self-sabotaged, or you've gone backwards. There are people who get stuck in their heads that I can never beat this thing. Let me tell you, sobriety is so scary. Because when you've lived a life like mine, you are 20 years, you are deep in addiction. You don't know what it's like to be sober. You don't know what it looks like on the other side of the fence. You have watered your fence for so long that the other side of the fence is foreign. And truly it is. But your mindset is so key. You have to speak to yourself. You need to speak life. This thing called speaking life is not only spoken by pastors. Watch whatever motivational video you can watch. People say watching motivational videos are crap. I beg to differ. Me, they have helped me. I think maybe it's because I'm also a speaker. But you need to listen to people who have walked the journey that you have. If you need to go for AA meetings, go for AA meetings. You'll hear stories worse than yours. Me, I've gone for a few. The stories I hear, good Lord. Wow, I thought I was bad. You need to change. I cannot emphasize enough. Your mindset is important. Even if nobody else in the world believes in you, believe in yourself. And even me, I believe in you. I may not see you, I may not know you. But I believe in you because you have chosen today to wake up sober, to walk sober, to live sober. And you must walk tall. Whether you have expensive clothes or you don't, that's not it. Walk tall. Believe in yourself. Believe that you're here for a purpose. Believe that alcohol did not kill you because God has a greater purpose and a bigger plan for you. That's the only way you're going to beat this thing. Are there days I've been depressed? Hell yeah. Especially during COVID. There are days I've been depressed. There are days I've looked at that in the spirit and thought, it looks so nice all of a sudden. But then I remember who I am. You need to remember who you are on a daily basis. That's why we are told keep coming back one day at a time. For us in recovery, me, I'll be in recovery until the day God calls me home. That I've accepted because addiction is not curable. Alcoholism is manageable but not curable. You see, I can't cheat myself that after I leave meeting Justus, I'll go down to Legend or wherever and have a beer. I might not come out of there. I'll call Legend Justus later crying and saying, God, what have I done? We are in recovery until the day we go home, to wherever your home will be. So to anyone in recovery, fight this thing. You need to fight it with everything in yourself because you've been given a chance to live again. Choose to live right. It's a choice. You could also choose to die an alcoholic, and nobody can take that choice away from you. Everybody may love on you. Everybody may give you everything, but it starts with you. Look for that little strength that is remaining. If you have to crawl for it, crawl for it. Whatever you need to do, do it. Get that help that you need. It is so important. You don't know how much there are people out there rooting for you, whoever you may be. There's somebody somewhere who believes in you, whether you believe in yourself or not. Me, my dad believed in me. I've sold this guy's things. I've sold his stuff. And the guy still believed in me. He refused to wash his hands because he could see something in me that I couldn't see in myself. You know, I've killed this man, not literally, but with my actions. You know, he has loved on me selflessly. And that's why I always say he's like the epitome of Jesus Christ in my life. Jesus loved selflessly. This man has done so. Believe me, even to the person who is in the trenches right now, there is somebody somewhere who believes you can be better than you are. Because when the Bible tells us the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy, these people like me who struggle with addiction, are people who are brilliant minds. We are brilliant. God wired us that way. So for you who is watching me and you've given up, please find it within yourself. If you can't reach me, reach out to that little voice inside you that is telling you, wake up and try again. It doesn't matter how many times you've fallen. It does not matter who says what about you. Look for that little voice and say that is saying, hey, I'm still here. Follow that little voice. That little voice could be the voice of God telling you, look up and look forward. And you'll make it. I'm here not because I am anybody great in this world. I am here because I chose to fight for my life. Life is beautiful, irrespective of whatever is going on around us. Life is beautiful. Fight for it with everything you've got. If you would like to partner with me or to reach out to me in any way, my mobile number is +254 797 759 386. I'll repeat again, +254 797 759 386. My email address is carolinekagiawellness @gmail.com. Caroline Kagia, Kagia is single G, carolinekagiawellness@gmail.com. My social media handles are on Facebook, Caroline Kagia, Caroline Kagia Wellness Initiative, and on LinkedIn, Caroline Kagia. I am appealing for anyone who sees my vision, for anyone who has followed me keenly and can see the work I do, to come and join me, partner with me in terms of your resources, your finances, and in any way that you can help me to push this initiative as far as it can. I'll repeat again, alcoholism still remains a stigma in Africa. It is still the elephant in the room. But I feel it is my calling to speak to every woman and every girl that is struggling, and even those who are not, but have people who are struggling with the same. So please, join me in pushing this initiative forward.